what it feels like is there's a pitchfork being shoved up inside of you while somebody is twisting it around, stabbing you with it while simultaneously bagging your uterus.
A lot of anger towards, the regular Western medicine.
And I knew before going in there, they were just going to tell me to take birth control.
Begging on your knees. People are not listening to you too much.
The waiting list for these people to be seen is absolutely sickening, in my opinion.
I was miserable. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to go ride my horses. Adults are always talking about how much worse life gets, how your joints start to ache, and all these kind of awful things.
Now, what I know today about endometriosis and what is endometriosis.
Today we have something that's very serious to talk about. Something that I believe, in my opinion, in my experience with it, although Mark and I are men, we have been around and heard, we've been part of endometriosis in our clients, in our friends, family. And I think this is something that's very serious, that is often completely overlooked in the medical system. We've got two guests today that we're going to be sharing their stories and getting into it today. And I think this is a necessary one to help women out there that are suffering with this, that often doctors have no idea what they're doing. And it's unfortunate, but we're going to get into it. Welcome, Fleur and Aaliyah. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk about this today, because I think this is a very important subject, and I hope people listen to it and that we can get this message out loud and proud. Firstly, I just want to mention, yes, Mark and I are males. We have no idea what goes on. We are just, from one side of things. And I think the first video I'm going to share actually puts it into perspective for all the people. And it is abrasive, I'm not going to lie. But for all the people that don't know what endometriosis is, we're going to play that, and then we're going to talk about your stories. Okay, ladies? Is that okay? Okay. So here we go. We're going to do this. So forgive the language. We're okay with the curse words. But this just is a dumbed down for all the guys that have no idea what they're talking about. This might help out.
Endometriosis Awareness Month. So go hug a woman. This fucked ass shit happens when tissue similar to the goddamn uterus grows the fuck outside of the uterus, mostly on the bitch ass ovaries, fallopian tubes, or pelvic walls. This piece of shit tissue responds to hormones, giving a poor woman inflammation, scarring, and terrible ass motherfucking pain. The fucked up symptoms include fucking intense menstrual cramps, chronic pelvic pain, and even infertility. This can fucking suck ass, especially because, for some women, it can go undiagnosed for years. The fucking good news is that awareness and treatment can make it so life isn't so shit living with endometriosis. Medication, fucking surgery, and lifestyle choices can seriously help to manage this shit. So if you have endometriosis and are in a fuck ton of pain, be sure to talk to your doctor about these options. And remember that your stupid ass isn't alone, and that this pain is real even though you can't see it. Follow Dr. Pickle for more about your fucked up but beautiful body.
Sorry about that, the cursing and all that stuff, but for all the people that don't have any idea about that, it is serious. And although we are going to have a problem with doctors today, we're not doctors, we're not scientists, but I think the medical system, let alone, is filled. I mean, I haven't heard your story yet, but I know kind of Fleur's experience with it. But let's start out with, after knowing that is for people that's sort of a dumbed down idea of endometriosis. Aaliyah, we'll start with you if you don't mind. What's your story and what got you here?
Okay, so you guys can hear me good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys already know that I'm 16, but for all the people who don't know, I'm 16. So I got my period when I was around 12 or 13. I was it was pretty average. I never experienced bad cramping. I was fine. And I'm always been overweight, so I was always experimenting with calorie deficits. And I guess I'll just go in chronological order since that seems the easiest. So 2022, 2023, I was I'm so bad at math. Anyways, that was when I was losing weight. I had only lost 12 pounds during a calorie deficit, but this is important to the story, so listen. I was eating lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, lots of food with synthetic hormones, which is like flaxseed or endocrine disrupting food, phytoestrogens, that's what they're called. So that's really prominent in like flax seeds, chia seeds, and there are a lot of foods, and these hormones mimic estrogen. So when you intake them into your body, they cause your estrogen to either spike, and then your body's trying to balance it with testosterone. So, and the hormones are not the same as the ones you would produce. So your body doesn't know what's going on. So up until this time when I was eating all these foods, even though I was overweight, I was tired all the time, I was bloated, I had chronic migraines. During this time, I was super sick. I had all these chronic health conditions, but I did not have endometriosis yet. So after doing this healthy diet for a couple months, one day I randomly woke up and I was out eating dinner somewhere, and I collapsed on the table because I thought I was going to die. My cramps were killing me. I'd never experienced this before. I didn't know what was going on. And so it didn't go away. My mom thought my appendix was bursting, or that I had a cyst on my ovary, but it was like, I've had those before, those hurt, but like this was a different kind of pain. Basically, as a girl who's describing it, what it feels like is there's a pitchfork being shoved up inside of you while somebody is twisting it around, stabbing you with it while simultaneously bagging your uterus, like you know how they bag people who need air. That's what it feels like to me. That's at least how mine was. So I go to the doctor, my primary care, because I was also passing out a lot at the time. And they basically told me to go to the gynecologist. So I went to the gynecologist. The gynecologist, we did ultrasounds. I think they did a blood test. I didn't get a biopsy or anything. I didn't get a elastropathy or anything. So I'm not formally diagnosed with endometriosis. I always say that. But my biological mother has it. And she also has pelvic inflammatory disease, which I'm not sure. I think that's a STD thing anyway. So I'm pretty sure I don't have that. But basically, that was my story. I went to the gynecologist. They did all these tests. They did an ultrasound, and I knew before going in there they were just going to tell me to take birth control. I literally told my mom, I said, if they tell me to take birth control, I'm not taking it. So they gave me birth control. I didn't take it, and I was like, I know there's got to be something else that I can do. So that's when I started researching, and I came across kind of like paleo, Mediterranean, low toxic diet, and I started experimenting with that, and I didn't really notice a difference, to be honest. Because I was still eating these foods that were very high in phytoestrogens. So, and I was also taking bee pollen, which is like super high in phytoestrogens. That's why it makes people's boobs grow. But besides the point. So I did that for, I'd say, about 3 months. And then I turned 15. And so, yeah, I turned 15 before I started that, or somewhere along there. I was so, like, my mind was not functioning properly, so for me to go back and like remember these things, it's kind of hard because, you know, when you're sick, your brain doesn't work right. So May of 2024, I start the carnivore diet. I had heard about Sylvia, animal-based taste. She was doing animal-based or carnivore at the time, I don't remember, but she was posting about it helping with her PCOS. So I'm like, well, this is something I should try. So I start carnivore in the middle of the day, and I'm not a perfect carnivore. I've done a lot of keto foods throughout this, but it was a complete 180 for me. I went from being like sick, inflamed, I was miserable. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to go ride my horses. And I didn't see the point in life, because when you're young and you're a teenager, and adults are always talking about how much worse life gets, how your joints start to ache, and all these kind of awful things, and you're like, well, if I already feel this bad now, like, how it's going to get worse, and you're like, don't even have will to live anymore. I was never suicidal, but it kind of gets to that point where you're like, what's life even worth? So when I started carnivore, my mentality changed. My endometriosis, like I completely stopped having symptoms for a long time. And everything just got better. And that's honestly almost the end of the story. But then after like 6 or 8 months of carnivore, I had symptoms that started to come back. So that's when I went on the lion diet, and I believe I had a candida overgrowth or something along those lines that just triggered my inflammation again. So when I went on the lion diet for a month and a half, I resetted my gut, everything. I went back normal carnivore, and I've been perfect ever since. So, not perfect carnivore, but I haven't had any symptoms. I haven't, up until the lion diet point, I was still struggling with chronic migraines, but after lion diet, those actually went away. And as well as over this period of a year, I've lost 50 pounds, and I just have way more energy than I've ever had in my life. And I see the point in living again, and that's something really amazing. So, that's about it. Like, I could talk for hours, but I'm not going to.
No, Aaliyah, that's thanks for sharing that, and that's it's kind of neat when we get Fleur's side. You guys are so you're just starting your life. Fleur's a little bit older, and what she's her story has been a little bit longer and the progression. But I mean, when you talked about doctors not diagnosing it, I think that's going to come into a big factor during this talk because we're going to get into it after we hear from Fleur what the medical system actually does for you guys, which is in my mind appalling. So I'm so happy that you got to understand how important nutrition is, and at such a young age, I think this is going to be like powerful for your life, and it's that I don't hold that lightly when you say I've got my life back. I mean that's that's power. And
Yeah, because like you, Tony, I see an awful lot of like parents reach out to me every so often, and they're saying to me like, "Listen, my daughter's in severe pain. Can you help me? She's on a waiting list for nearly." That's like you. The waiting list for these people to be seen is absolutely sickening, in my opinion. Like I know in this country, like if you could be waiting nearly 2 years, and these people are on the floor. They're in agony, in serious agony, screaming, crying. And it's like, okay, well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And it's like, okay, we need to medicate the problem. No, you don't need to medicate the problem. This is an inflammation problem, and it really, really sickens me that these people are not getting the help that they want. And it's amazing, like you mentioned, that Aaliyah is only 16, and because this is what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing so many teenagers.
Yeah,
this is huge at the moment. Honestly,
and
I know.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so just before we get Fleur's take on it, I just want to mention something because this is something that comes into play a lot, especially with Mark and I being a coach helping women. We can't possibly understand what you guys are going through. We can't possibly feel, and we're not minimizing this at all. We understand there's mechanisms at play, and I don't want people to it's really tough helping women when you understand a little bit about hormones. And when I met Fleur, I didn't know if this way of eating was going to help her. Like when I found out her story and what she was going through, not only was I in shock because I didn't realize this even existed, but what the similarities now that I'm hearing from you, Aaliyah, and Fleur's, how this all started is important. And I mean, we came to it. Fleur is going to explain what her situation is and her story. But I mean, this is what it's all about. And I'm really happy to have been able to be part of Fleur's journey in this, and it's powerful. Fleur, are you ready?
Okay. Yes, thank you for sharing, Aaliyah. Like it's give me like a lot of hope with like what is possible. So yeah, like my story, it's a little bit further the line in the life of a woman. So I'm gonna turn 45. And so I've been struggling with endometriosis for the last 15 years. And we had like an interview at some point. So like I'm going to try not to repeat as
No, it's
much
okay.
of
You
the
just tell
first
us.
thing, but just in a nutshell, like I got my period around like 14, 15, was not like good, but it was considered, my pain was considered as normal, standard. And right away, my mother was like, okay, first round of periods, you're in pain. I know what you need. I'm going to take you to the gynecologist and you're going to get on birth control and it's going to put back everything right. That was like what I've been told, right? So from 15 to almost 30, I use birth control. And in my late 20s, I had like a big burnout, big mental health struggle that took me kind of like deep in a hole. And I stopped taking my birth control. And in a few months, I realized a few things, that like I was actually changing and physically, but principally like emotionally, mentally, like I was different. And so right away I was like, okay, like I was not really myself with birth control. It was not really good for me. I have like family stroke and we were like all smoker at the time. So birth control was definitely not an option anymore. And they're telling you, like it's very well-known cause of cancer and like a lot of like secondary effect of birth control are totally accepted. The risks are accepted, but nobody are really talking about what can happen to you when you take birth control, and those secondary effects are not really in the general narrative. So anyway, I stopped taking my birth control, and progressively, my cycle got worse and worse and worse. The first time it happened to me, I didn't understand what was happening. People thought, right? So like there is a few things that are coming back, and how as a woman you need to advocate for yourself somehow. So you're in so much pain, you cannot process, your brain cannot process anymore, you cannot explain yourself properly. It's kind of tough to advocate. So anyway, like in many occasion, and just to put a number out there, like in 15 years, I probably had like a 30 ultrasounds, way more pelvic exam and other stuff, that each time I was having like an issue and ending up in the hospital, we were doing it all over again. Always the same thing. You don't really learn so much about your body and what's happening to you. They think, appendicitis,
Yeah.
I think in English.
Appendicitis.
Thank you. Maybe you're pregnant. Maybe you have a cyst that has burst. Maybe your ovary has twisted. Maybe it could be like a fibroid. So like there is a few feminine conditions that are kind of like different variation of like all this hormonal unbalance that you can have. So like they have like a few points that they need to double check. And if you're not pregnant, so they need to double check that before you can get any painkiller. And so the situation is, like over and over again in the most vulnerable moment of your life, begging on your knees. People are not listening to you too much. And many times for me, that's my experience, but I've heard it's not only my experience. my pain has been diminished, really, And just to give you like a sense of what's going on, because I think, Aaliyah, your description of the pain that we're feeling at those moments, and I have so much emotion, going there. And the fact that it's diminished is in itself very traumatizing, very traumatizing, on the top of what you're living. So at the time I was traveling for my work, I ended up in Venice. We were having a day off. We were supposed to visit Venice. So here I am, first time in my life, I really want to visit Venice, right? But I shouldn't have. I know I shouldn't have walked, and I did it anyway because I really want to visit this place. I end up in atrocious pain. I'm having the paramedic from, like the ambulance, the whole shebang, coming to me. I'm in kind of like professional setting. So all of that in itself is quite vulnerable and uncomfortable, to be the center and the attention like that in like professionally. Because you feel very vulnerable and very open. So anyway, I have those Italian people taking me to the hospital. I'm not speaking Italian, so my boss is coming with me. And all over that, I arrive to the hospital. I'm in excruciating amount of pain. For me, it's like I have a being in my belly that kind of like scratch and scratch the inside of my uterus. That's the way I see that, feel that. And so I have like one of the paramedic, like a guy, but we can talk about that. It's not a question of gender. I've been diminished by women as well. But he patted my belly. And like I'm on the thing and they have like attached me because I was in a crazy house in Italy, and like to get me out of there, I couldn't walk. So like I was like just all attached. And the guy literally was like, my wife as well, she has cramp during her woman time. And this is like, I think, a good vision of like what's been like done time and time again, and they double check and validate what I'm saying. So anyway, like I finally end up, after hours of waiting, to this guy. And this doctor is like, you have endometriosis. Like, it's very clear to me. We know that it's a pain to have the proper diagnosis, but I would suggest you're, getting like more information about that, and blah blah blah. And so fast forward, like I try, like food, to like to use food as medication. I try different kind of stuff. I was using quantity of painkiller that, when you try to do well for your health and your body, at some point you're like, maybe I should take the birth control, because like the amount of morphine I was going through, and so self-medicating, but also ending up to the hospital and having hydromorphone on a regular basis, because I live in North America and that's the way they manage pain. And I'm from Europe, so they have a different way to deal with that, by the way. So all of that has been like a really solitary challenge. And that's something that maybe like I feel I need to share, because like when you're in pain like that, and when you go through something like that and you're not supported in the way I think everybody should be, it feels very lonely, very lonely. And you have also, and I definitely have that, a lot of anger towards the regular Western medicine, in the sense of from now what I know today about endometriosis and what is endometriosis, and especially the fact that, and we can talk that more about that it has nothing about your gynecology, and it has everything to do with inflammation and chronic inflammation. So it has nothing to do with woman stuff. And so we end up somehow, and that's something that I recently realized, to ask to be supported by people that have actually no clue about what is this condition. And so this is what's happening today. You have officially 10% of the women population that is suffering like that on various degrees. And it takes average 10 years to be properly diagnosed. And being properly diagnosed is actually having a laparoscopy. So they need to actually open you up to have an actual surgery to see the scarring tissue and to properly diagnose you. And I had those cycle actually because you need a proper diagnosis to be taken in charge of specialists. But what specialists are actually giving is like the regular thing, right? Let's remove everything altogether or just take birth control. Why are you not taking birth control?
Powerful stuff.
And Fleur, I want you to tell people about you not being diagnosed, like what your experience is in the hospitals. They won't even put you on, like, what, there was something about them not believing you. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, you don't need this. We don't need to know this. You just need to go on the pill. Like, this is the problem with gaslighting.
I hear this an awful lot as well.
Yeah, well, so and like it's the cycle of pain is very complex, and you have this pulse coming and going, and sometimes this pulse is so big that your body goes in shock. And sorry for the maybe it's too much information, but
no.
For me, when my body goes in shock, I start throwing up, I start shitting myself. Like there is all those reaction in the body because the body prepare for the worst. This is like a stress response of the body, and you will see that in the savannah in Africa from animal that's been chased, right? So like what it shows in your nervous system is that the body is going into shock because like there is a big thing happening in the body. And so that's coming from the pain and the pulsation of the pain. So there is time I would be able to talk and advocate finally for myself, but there is time the pain is coming, shooting harder, and now I'm throwing up or I cannot talk, and people are not really understanding what's happening to me. And when I say people, it's like health professional, right? Like it's not regular people that I'm like, for sure, regular people might not know what's happening to me, right? And when it's happened to me, what's been a bit weird, I have to say, I get so much sensitivity in my lower abdomen that even if I wear leggings, and I'm a leggings girl because I'm all about being comfortable, I need to pull out my leggings because just the leggings sitting on my belly is actually excruciating. And so while I do that and I try to find a comfortable position while, I have all those professionals asking me questions, people think I'm pregnant or I'm giving birth.
Before we get into the next video, Aaliyah, what do you feel about that? Like, how do you guys, like, I know Fleur, you probably are, I'm going to let you guys know. Like, I want you to.
Okay, I have something to add to it. I totally feel for her in the, like, anything touching your abdomen or even like your upper thighs, like it hurts so bad. And that's something that I still experience now. It's just like a small amount of sensitivity because that scar tissue is still there. And the only way to get rid of it is either surgery or just over time, like fasting a lot, because of the autophagy. And I'm actually planning to write a book about this stuff, but only in due time will that happen. But one of my symptoms, which I haven't heard anybody else actually say that this is a symptom, maybe because it's kind of uncomfortable to talk about, but obviously I haven't had a kid ever, but I can't tell pregnant people this because they just look at me crazy. But what it felt like was I was giving actively in labor. Like it felt like there was a bowling ball about to come out of me, and that was like constant. That wasn't like the pain that like came and went every 20-25 minutes. That was constant. So like if you're working, if you have school, or like I ride horses for my job. How am I supposed to go? Like you cannot do that. You can barely walk, and then like we're just expected to live life normally. Like that makes no sense. You don't tell a woman who's in active labor that she needs to go finish her homework.
Yeah.
You know? And I do think doctors say, oh, well, this has always been a thing. People just now start talking about it. Like it's not that bad. But if we go back to when we were hunter gatherers, like a woman would not be able to provide for her children as well as find food, make sure her husband gets home safe, and all this stuff while experiencing this pain. I mean, it's a recent thing. And that's all.
Well, that's that's wise beyond your years, Aaliyah, because that's the stuff that like we're going back to. That's what the medical system will absolutely not agree with. They will say, "Oh no, your genetics, you're broken. Oh poor you." Fleur, when when you hear Aaliyah talk and you hear her experience, what is that like? How are you feeling right now? Like, how do you relate to her? Are you happy that she's sort of found this?
Yes, like it's very interesting because, imagine if I could have like go back and find carnivore 15 years ago. Wow, like so much like hours of in the waiting room in the hospital that wouldn't have been there, right? Like yeah, so like I mean, I think I'm not completely out of like the loop with endometriosis. I really have to be diligent into my diet and what I give to my body to nurture herself. Something that came up over time, and it goes beyond like the pain, or like it's more about maybe like how women are disconnected from their bodies in the first place, and how like we're not actually like having this education to be like in touch with what happened in our body. We're having people telling us what happened to our body. And I think like it's where we can do better as like a woman, and that's why it's like so good that education and people know more about it, right? But like beyond like the pain, there is like this connection to the body, how and I'm big about the nervous system and how stress and anxiety is like a big inflammatory marker, right? So there is like a lot of stuff there that actually when you eat nutritious food and your stress go down. So it's been very interesting for me to see that with the carnivore diet. And also the fact that, when you have like a chronic condition, there is this overall anxiety about preparing for it, being in the middle of it, recovering from it. It's never out of your minds, and it doesn't feel good. And you just sometimes don't want to think about it. And you're going to take the ice cream because you're like, you know what? Like, I'm going to have it, right? But we don't realize what it does to the body. And so like there is like many layers there, and so we can see like with Aaliyah condition and age, and how she's having like what would you say, Aaliyah, like how, if you could bring like a percentage, like how much better is your condition compared to before carnivore? I know that for me, I feel 80% of my condition is gone.
Mhm.
I don't go to the hospital anymore.
Mhm.
I don't take morphine anymore. But I'm kind of like curious how it is for you.
Okay. Well, while I'm talking, I'm just gonna add that I've talked to several people who've had endometriosis and have also had kids, and they've told me that the pain from endometriosis is actually worse than being in labor. So that's really eye-opening because guys who've had kids, wives with kids who've seen the labor process, like you just know how intensely painful that is. And then for how much carnivore has helped, and I agree with Fleur a lot on this stress. If I'm really stressed out before I get my period, I tend to have more symptoms. It is what it is. And really the only thing that I can do to help it is just sleep more. Like your body recovers really good in sleep. You're fasting while you're sleeping. And while, I have stuff to do, I have a life to live. I try and sleep a lot, even though it looks lazy. I mean, it really is good for your body to do that because it's less stressful on you. You're fasting, you're doing autophagy. But yeah, I would say close to 95% of my symptoms are gone most of the time. And if I'm having a bad week where things are awful, things are stressful, then maybe it's like 30% worse. Like I still have pretty bad attacks when I am bad. So it's not debilitating anymore, but it's still not pleasant.
Well, both of you guys, I think, the saddest part about all this is just the gaslighting that's gone on. And it's like we were part of a group when I started helping Fleur, and even women, they didn't realize that Fleur had to do this. They took their carnivore diets as oh, well, maybe today I'll just have some sugar, or I'll just have this little cheat. And I felt terrible because Fleur was, if we don't give this a real shot, we're never going to know. But there's no cheating. Like the difference between Fleur having an off day or a cheat meal, and we can get into this later about her experience when she actually went off the rails for a week, and what happened. But it's wild, Aaliyah, that you're young enough to know this stuff, and if you're starting to put this together now, like an inspiration to say the least to a lot of women out there that are starting, because in my opinion, I don't know if Mark, if you agree with this, it's going to start happening earlier and earlier and more often to women because of what you touched on, Aaliyah, the estrogenic everything. Everything is an endocrine disruptor. And if people don't understand what that means, that fucks your hormones up.
Exactly.
And if you have women with a very complicated hormonal cascade, and you have all these insults coming from chemicals, coming from food supply, coming from what we think is healthy, what do you think goes on? And then the thing that really, really, like, I have to hold back here because you ladies have both experienced this. The doctors just, pat your stomach and say, "Oh, we understand." Like,
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
and that's where Mark and I feel very passionately about. I want to be an ambassador not only for Fleur but for Aaliyah, but like to wake men the fuck up, because any guy, I feel terrible my whole life not even understanding the hormonal cascade of women and their menstrual cycle and their periods. But this is a whole other animal that I had no idea existed.
Exactly.
And we have no idea when women come to us, and it's like it's hard because I've become, I don't know, I don't want to say a detective, but Fleur and I, endometriosis has been a big part of my life for the last year and a half, because I've tried to see what's going on, and like Fleur's improvement is, I mean, it melts my heart that she's, she doesn't have to go to the hospital. But I think, Aaliyah, your story and at your age is so important to share this, because I can only imagine, from hearing from Fleur's experiences, how many girls would go to the hospital or go to the doctor at, just into their, their age of getting their periods. And all this is just gaslit. And, birth control is the answer. And I mean, it's unbelievable.
I totally agree with you, Tony. I mean, like you said at the very, very beginning, myself and yourself, we're only coaching this way. And like you, I've been coaching women now for 4 years. And I know that I'm qualified in this because I've seen I've seen the results. I've worked with about 15 women that had endometriosis, and these people would have been in like dire pain, like really, really dire pain. And when you see them come out the other side, it's like, holy shit, like, okay, I must be doing something right here. Why are the doctors not knowing this?
Yeah.
And like what Fleur said, these people would have went to see the doctors. They would have been gaslit. They would have said, "There's nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head. You'll be fine." Like, it's honestly, like you, it really, really, really angers me because I've seen this up front in personal, what these women are going through, and it absolutely kills me. Absolutely kills me the information that they're given. And it's not going to get any better. This is the reason why I was so eager at getting this podcast up today, because I spoke to Aaliyah during the week and I was like, listen, you have a voice now. You're a role model. You're at the perfect age. Same with Fleur. You guys need to keep spreading this message because this is huge at the moment. It's huge.
And what you're saying, Mark, too, and Fleur and Aaliyah is, Fleur's obviously been, she's older and she's had this, a big part of her life, but that's their trick. They separate us and they convince us that we're broken. They convince you that you have, it's in your head. And that's the thing that blows my mind, is that like the whole mental side of it, where it's in your head, the pain I'm feeling, and this awareness and this improvement. And I mean, you guys describing the pain, I can't even comprehend it, but getting improvements. So if this carnivore diet is so bad that you guys are systematically getting your lives back, even Aaliyah at a young age, shouldn't we be paying attention to this? Like, that's
absolutely 100%, Tony. You're dead right. Like, this is what really annoys me when you hear these women on national TV or you hear them on the radios and they're saying, like, listen, you're going to have this for the rest of your life. You're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. There's 2 women in front of us right now that are saying, like, listen, this can be managed. Maybe it might not be cured. You'll probably have it but it can definitely be managed.
It's a good 100%. Place to start, right?
100%. You can definitely relieve the pain. Yeah. That's what you can do because it's been proven time and time again.
And I mean, when I met Fleur, I'd already helped a few women, and it sort of clicked in my mind because they all reported that their cycles improved. I'm sorry, we're guys. We're going to talk about this. Breast soreness, nipple soreness goes away. The cramps go down. And this is just with and so when Fleur, like when she found me, or when we found each other, and she asked me, she's like, do you think this is, she was curious about it. And I was like, when I said, I don't know, but I was relating it to other female issues that were getting better. And right away in my mind, I'm like, it has to be able to be helpful, at least. But when I was telling Fleur and Aaliyah, I'm sure you can attest to this because you're talking lion diet, which is wisdom. You may have to scale this back to bare bones beef, salt, water, fat. You may have to, and unfortunately, this is where we get put into boxes. Fleur's diet compared to Aaliyah's diet, your symptoms, the way it is, we don't know what is for you. We know nutrition and we know inflammation and we know the insults, but that's the scale of this. And women, they put them in the boxes like, oh, just do this and you'll be fine, or this is what you do, and we have no idea. And I'm a big believer, and there's probably a genetic predisposition involved, but that's your way, that Aaliyah's and Fleur's way of showing there's a disconnect. It's not an absolute, because if it was, you guys would still be suffering and there would be nothing you've done. But I know both of you from your stories have like 80% to 95% better. That's
all the proof you need, isn't it?
Yeah. And I want to play another video because I want to get your ladies your take on it, because Fleur sends me a lot of these things all the time. I think I literally had 100 things to look through, but I wanted to touch on the emotional side because I don't think specifically guys with partners that are suffering this, I don't think we get it. Like, you don't understand. We hear this, you're emotional, you're PMSing, or you're, and when we look at what's happening into that progesterone phase of your cycles, this is your immune system on overdrive. And I think it gets really, really downplayed and minimized. And if this can help guys understand and help their women be better partners and be better support, that's good too. So we'll play it, and then I want to get Aaliyah and Fleur's take on this.
Tell me. Got lessons to get to. We'll give you a call with an update.
How are you feeling?
All right.
Good. Well, it's good news. All of Tonia's bloods have come back normal, so we're happy to discharge you. At least you got the afternoon off school, eh? Well, sometimes these symptoms can happen if you've not been eating properly or you've been under a lot of stress.
That's all that everyone keeps saying to me. It's stress, it's in your head, but it's not.
But unfortunately, all these symptoms are very normal when it comes to periods.
I've been looking online and this thing keeps coming up. Endometriosis. Could it be that?
It's really unlikely given your age.
But this girl has it and she's younger than me.
Unfortunately, we can't always trust what we see online.
What's and that's it then?
Well, I could give you some stronger painkillers, but there's not much else we can do here.
Well, if you can't help her here, can you not maybe ask the GP to refer her to see a specialist? At least then we can rule things out.
I don't see how that's going to help, but I'm happy to do that for you.
Thanks, Doctor. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's the stronger painkillers the doctor gave us.
I don't understand how I'm supposed to manage when nobody believes I'm even ill.
I believe you.
Yeah, but do you?
Of course I do.
Mum, this is the worst it's ever been. I think, there's something seriously wrong. I'm just gonna sit here for a bit. Got period pains I can have ya. It's a bit more than that. Just getting a bit boring now, isn't it? You're always ill. Portia. Just saying. It's boring for you? Yeah, try being me, Portia.
So, if you're going to find 27% of H cheeks report to the GP. Calling down
Oh my God, Tanya.
So what was it? What did you find?
We found what looked like patches of endometriosis. We managed to get it all, but unfortunately also had to remove the ovary due to the damage.
What? They found endometriosis?
And I was right. I knew I wasn't making it up. But if they listen,
I know, baby.
But we can fight it.
Well, it's never gonna go away, baby.
Okay, guys. Sorry, that's
terrible. That's absolutely terrible, isn't it? Terrible.
Aaliyah, we'll start. How do you feel?
I feel like I 100% relate to this video. The only part that I kind of thought was weird when that girl sat down was like, I'm just going to sit here, because when you're experiencing the pain, like, at least for me, I couldn't physically sit on my pelvis. I'd have to lay down or stand up, which is like, there's so much inflammation. You cannot sit down. Like, it just doesn't work like that, you know? But honestly, like, that's really accurate to how it is, because everybody thinks you're just being dramatic. I mean, unless they're experiencing it too, they don't know what's going on. And then with the birth control, like, I went to a private school, but I went to a private school full of crazy people. I'll just say that, you know, that's why I graduated early. Every school that I've been to, it was full of crazy people. But everybody I knew on birth control was like mentally insane. They were self-harming themselves. They were trying to commit suicide. They were trying to get themselves knocked up every other week. I'm like, you're 14. You shouldn't be doing that. And even though I was in pain, I would take my pain over being that mentally unstable any day, because you can't trust your own mind when you're in that position. And that's why, like, when I talk to people who have gotten off birth control like Fleur, they always say the same thing, that they would take the pain over the birth control, not because the birth control didn't help, because you don't trust your own mind. And even when you're like depressed or have really bad anxiety, or people are just constantly gaslighting you, you feel like you can't trust yourself. And that's so stressful to begin with. And that's why I can't stand the Western medicine system at all, because these doctors, they're not trained doctors. They don't know anything about nutrition. They're trained in one specialized subject, and then they're told to go perform on this wide range of patients who have, you know, different genetic backgrounds, different, the reason why I think endometriosis is genetic is because My mom grew up eating ultra processed food. Even though I never lived with her, I grew up eating ultra processed food, and I'm sure her parents grew up eating ultra processed food. That's genetic, and it's the same thing with type 2 diabetes. Oh, it's genetic, but is it really genetic, or is it just habits? You know? And yeah, I agree with that. Everybody thinks you're crazy, and you probably have one person that believes you. And even though I didn't have to deal with this, but like a year or so, imagine having to deal with that your whole life. Like I just couldn't. I would want to die.
Aaliyah, your wisdom, just don't you hold on to that, okay? Because that's
amazing,
a beautiful thing. Because
absolutely amazing.
You got it, man. And that's before we get your take on this, Fleur, I just wanted to just touch in on Aaliyah. The whole mind thing, that is, not only are you dealing with all this physical battle, but you just saying that is, I hope people are listening, because you know.
I have to say, Aaliyah, you've got a wealth of knowledge. You're definitely impressing me. It's been, honestly, just hearing you talk for a 16-year-old. It's just, honestly, you're blowing me away with this. It's incredible. I wish I knew this when I was your age, honestly.
No doubt. Now, Fleur, what did you feel? How did you feel about that?
Yeah, like it's disturbingly accurate. I had like a little thought of like the sitting as well. I was like, I would have to lay down, and I many times I looked like this crazy lady, because like you have so much pain, like forget your pride, like like your ego is not there anymore, and wherever you're gonna be, you're just gonna lay down. Can be filthy, it can be like just like public streets, but you're gonna have to lay down. And like it's like, I'm like, if you have to do that, why we're not taking our experience into accounts, like why, like I think we describe our pain in a very imaginative ways, to give it, like, to give us a sense of what it's look like. And like the truth is like that, like pain is not really understood properly, and there is like a whole science into that, about how your body mind connection, it's very real, and it can influence your perception, right? So if everybody is doubting you, if everybody is diminishing your pain while you're having pain, which is like, so detrimental to your mental health, and having, I'm going to say it, like the trauma of being like dismissed and not listened time and time again, it doesn't really train your mind as a woman to advocate for yourself and being in tune with your body, right? Like everything have been made, if you're looking out there, to have women at war with their body, to consume a ton of shit that they don't need and that make them sick, right? If we go into the whole beauty market and all this crazy stuff that is full of stuff that's making us sick. If we talk about hygiene products, okay, that we have to macerate into stuff that is actually like, I want to say industrial waste that is repurposed. Would you do that? Would you put this liner, like, or even a tampon inside of you that will affect, like your inflammation down the line? Like this stuff is so layered, and there is so many sources, like Aaliyah said, like about like all of that coming up, I think like food is diminished, like the impact of what you put in your body is diminished, what you put on your skin is diminished, like all of that. And so women are not supported. That's why it takes 10 years, like a decade. Okay, so 12 cycle a year, time 10, 120 experience where you're going to find yourself on the floor begging for painkiller. Like this is what's happening, and this is how women have been, like, you know, not like second zone citizen, I want to say, because medically nothing has been made on us. Sorry, I'm just gonna finish with that, but nothing has been made like, okay, like what is your physiology? You're different than a man. There is like a whole cycle of hormones that men don't have, right? Where on the lunar calendar, you're on the solar calendar as a man, 24-hour cycle, we're on like 30 days, let's say. So like all of that is not taken into account in the traditional medicine, and it make me so freaking mad. And now they do women clinic, you know, but it's still very outdated, and they're still thinking that the lifestyle is not a big deal, and the lifestyle for chronic inflammatory condition is essential.
Yeah. And sorry to, I don't mean to cut you off, Fleur. I just want to mention that because you just said a couple things there. Actually, the first thing I wanted to say is that friend who didn't give a shit about the girl either. That's something that I'm sure both of you can relate to, where just disregarded, like, oh, you're just being an attention grabber, like, you know, whatever. The second thing is when you said, Fleur, women's clinic. Yeah, it might be a woman's clinic, but it's the system telling you that it's okay because it's women. It's not anything different. It's not a holistic or a different perspective. It's just, well, women run this clinic that's still the same system, which is, you know, we have a problem. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit here. I'm going to show you, because now we're talking about we've talked about the endocrine disrupting, we've talked about the food, but what we fail to see is all of this stuff that we put together. Then they tell us to eat low fat. Then they tell us to lower our cholesterol. And I'm going to play this. I'm going to put this slide up. And if you just look at the estrogen pathway from cholesterol to DHA, which is a testosterone, the testosterone to estradiol, that would go a step further into the progesterone phase, which I think, you know, in my opinion, is the endometriosis like disconnect. But these are so important. And what happens if they tell you to lower your cholesterol and you're on a low fat diet, for one, you're not getting the support with the nutrients. They're telling you to lower your cholesterol. And look at what Aaliyah mentioned, all the estrogenic, let alone endocrine disrupting stuff out there. What do you think happens? And, you know, I think, unfortunately, ladies, you experience endometriosis, but I think there a lot more women are not. They don't have the endometriosis, but their pathways somewhere along those lines is disrupted by the same things. And that's what, like, putting this puzzle together is, you know, look at what happened, both of you, when you started eating a higher fat, real food, like a lot of protein, fat, meat diet. Aaliyah's talking about the lion diet. Look what happens. You know, all these systems start to, you know, maybe mitigating the societal environmental damages that we're all victims of now, and it's going haywire. But that's what I have a problem with too, is this low fat bullshit. And I know, Mark, you have, like, you know, your MO about this, you know, craziness. And, you know, if you just look at the hormonal cascade of a woman, how complex it is, and it all starts with cholesterol. As far as
all starts with fats. I've mentioned this many times, that with women, the biggest thing I find with women is that there's not enough fat in the diet. That's the first thing. It's just like too much protein. This is the big thing I find with people especially when they try the carnivore diet. There's just not enough fat in the diet. And from a hormonal standpoint, I don't think women understand how important this is. And cholesterol needs to be like extremely high.
And if you look at, and ladies, sorry, we're going to get into might be a little bit of in the weeds here, but if you look at the enzymatic assistance of the hormonal cascade, that's your protein. So if you're looking at testosterone to estrogen, or, you know, the going through your phases, aromatase, like, I mean, bodybuilders know this. Too much testosterone in your body, it turns into estrogen. There's an aromatase problem. Well, if your aromatase is getting disrupted by lack of protein. How do you think that all happens? You know what I mean? And I don't want to make it about that, but that's the importance of the protein as well. Like the complete real protein, I think work hand in hand with a higher fat, good cholesterol diet. And it's crazy. Now I got one more video that I want to play for you guys, and I'm sure that you guys would you might know who she is. Aaliyah, I don't know if you do or not, but this is
the average wait time for a diagnosis of endometriosis is 10 years. That is our reality, and that needs to change. My symptoms started when I was 15. Though relatively mild for several years, they became significantly more intense when I hit my 20s. I got through my cycle days by crying, usually in solitude, and extremely embarrassed of my symptoms. I was convinced I had endometriosis, but I'd yet to find a doctor who believed in me. More than a dozen physicians repeatedly told me that my ultrasounds looked normal, to just take pain medicine, to get more rest, or that my period symptoms were typical for a woman, making me feel like a true drama queen. This attitude toward me persisted for years, to the point that I began to question my own sanity. Countless women in all industries have lost jobs or careers or have been mistreated in other ways because we don't know what day or time our bodies will attack us. It adds more layers of pain, psychologically, emotionally, and financially. Chronic pain is already incredibly isolating, and to feel like your symptoms are not validated is heartbreaking. Do they think I'm lying? I would think to myself. I'll never forget those moments of complete despair. To those who don't have endometriosis, but you know someone who does, please never stop loving them and fighting for them. And to those who have it, or one day will have it, you have my word that I will always have your back, just as those who came before me continue to have mine. Thank you so much.
my mic's muted. Sorry about that. So that kind of sums up what you guys have both been sort of talking about. And, you know, I think if there's a message here today, is
there's always hope. I think that I think the message is clear. There's always hope. Always.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so proud to be part of Fleur's journey. And, you know, I've known it hasn't always been easy, but watching the progression of just getting her life back. And I know Fleur said something to me that was very powerful when she went traveling and was able to travel, just able to go on a holiday. Like, I don't think people realize that, you know, you are unable to fucking travel.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's been, you know, I've been really proud and I admire your courage, Fleur. And I've seen like your journey and what you've done. And I think people need to hear this. And Aaliyah, your story and your wisdom, it absolutely warms my heart because, you know, it shows that there's hope for the younger. I fear for our youth and, you know, what they're going to be up against soon because of all this shit.
I just hope, Tony, that when we put this video up, I just hope that it reaches a lot of people. I'm hoping that they don't shut it down. I'm hoping that they don't push it back. I'm hoping that like people see this, they share it, they send it out to people, because this is, as I said, there's two people here in front of us right now that have a wealth of knowledge in this. I mean, what other information do you need? What other research do you need?
Yeah.
We're after spending nearly 60 minutes. Yeah,
the study's right here.
Yeah. Studies right in front of us. I don't need to read any research. I'm listening to two people. That's all the research and data that I need. That's it. Simple.
And the beautiful thing is you guys are from different corners of the world and you're different ages, you know, both have had profound experiences with this and a little bit of redemption and healing and a lot of stuff that's, you know, I want to be an ambassador for you two as well, because, you know, this is the stuff that I know Mark does too, is that, you know, we've got your backs and I can't even imagine, like I've said before, what you've gone through, how you feel. But, you know, from our perspective of bringing the awareness to the table, bringing out the hope bringing your stories to the forefront. And I'd love to have you guys back to talk about a little bit more about what you've actually done with diet and we can get into the things. But I think this day is so important for people to understand and hear you. And anytime that you guys want to speak out and be heard, that's what we're here for. And I'm very, very thankful for and grateful for both of you coming on today.
Absolutely.
Aaliyah, is there anything you'd like to say as we close? Do you want to where people can find you if you're yeah.
Okay. So I'm Aaliyah _the _carnivore on all platforms. I came out with my book yesterday, so all you have to do to get a free copy of it is follow me and then DM me on Instagram, and I will send that over. And while that book does not go in depth on endometriosis, it does talk a lot about how hormones work and just how carnivore affects the body, especially as a teenager. That's what it's based on. And carnivore helps. I'm personally an advocate for raw carnivore if you're really struggling. A lot of people think it's crazy, but your body is all raw meat. It's the easiest thing to digest. Same with the fat. Even though I don't personally do it all the time, it's just not my thing. But if I was desperate, I would. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I really want to thank you guys for bringing me on. Fleur, I loved your story. Well, I don't know if I loved it. It made me feel really sad, but I love that you share it, and thank you all.
Oh, Aaliyah, and I'll tell you what, we'll make sure that the links are to your like. I'm proud of you, Aaliyah. That's quite amazing. Now, it's not a coincidence. I think somebody in this circle likes raw meat too. She's a big advocate, but I'll let her say it. Anyway, Fleur is also a very a healing practitioner, and I'll let her explain what she does. And ladies need help specifically energetically with nervous system. She's done wonders for me and my energy for sure. But Fleur, any last things to say, and where can people find you and get a hold of you?
What to say, how to finish, I'm not sure. Yeah, like thank you for the opportunity, like to be able to share more about that, because I know there is so many people suffering that don't really know what to do those days. And maybe like the only thing that I would like to finish up on is about how people are like, oh my gosh, like I'm French, okay? I love food. I love my food, right? But people are like, oh my gosh, like how are you doing? You're not doing bread, right? And no, I don't do bread, but like the pluses are so unbelievable compared to the minuses, like changing my diet to actually have a life. I think it's worth the try. So I just gonna finish there. It might need time, right? Because the condition doesn't happen in one day, so it won't be fixed in one day. And we're used to, like easy shortcuts, kind of miracle produce. This is not a miracle scheme. This asks of you to choose yourself again and again at every meal. So thank you.
And where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, fleur.vibrantsoul. I work with different technique and tool about energy to actually recalibrate the nervous system, which is a big part of health and wellness and how we appreciate life.
All right. Well, you know what? I think Mark's phone died, so on behalf of Mark, I'm sure he would love to thank both of you guys for being here and sharing your story. I know you guys have both been like Aaliyah. It's been so nice to meet you, and I'm so thankful that you came on and did this, because it's neat. The perspectives, having different people, and this is real for everybody listening. This is real shit, real people, real stories, and I think it's time to stop minimizing, especially women's health. And I believe you know, in my professional opinion, you guys have had the short end of your stick for generations now, and it's time to empower women and give them some hope, and people will listen. And I just want to thank you both again for being here. And you can find Mark at Fitness Beyond Time 01 on TikTok and Instagram. I will post the links to Fleur and Aaliyah in the description. And you can find me at TonyStewartCoaching.com. And I'm starting a new thing to try and empower women about how much gaslighting and lies there is about healing and health. And endometriosis it's time to be heard and know about this. Ladies, thank you so much. And we look forward to catching up with you guys. And Aaliyah, please stay in touch and keep us updated on how you're doing. And we'll push your book. I'm proud of you. That's awesome. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. See you later.